How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another installment of Dan Talks Amazon. Two dudes. Uh, so today I want to talk about Amazon returns. So we get a lot of questions about Amazon returns, and largely in part because of what we do as private label drop shipping, it's not quite as easy as as FBA. So in FBA world, you host the product in fulfillment centers. From the fulfillment centers, the product is packaged, sent to the customer. If the customer has a return, either they damaged it or it came damaged, anything like that, they'll send it back to Amazon, and Amazon will review the product, see if they can put it back into inventory, or if not, they'll leave it stranded and you'll have to deal with it. In our world, in the private label drop shipping world, it's not that simple. So you have us US based sellers or any international seller that's selling in the US knows that you need a US based return address. And that essentially is, it could be a PO box, it could be anything as long as it's within the United States. You would, what would happen is the customer would then be directed to initiate an RMA if they want to return the product. The product would then get sent back to your US based return address. And returns are a part of life. When you're selling, regardless if it's FBA, regardless if it's private label drop shipping, whatever it is, eBay, Shopify, whatever, you're going to have to eventually deal with returns. Depending on what the product is, if how expensive it is, the biggest one we've seen is clothing. Oh God, it didn't fit. The quality didn't come out as right. You know how it goes. But you're going to have to deal with returns, and don't panic. A good return rate is 5 to 10%. That's sometimes it's higher. I mean, it really depends on if your product sucks, if the quality coming from your supplier is terrible, if they had a bad batch. I mean, you're not testing the product before it gets there. Depending on what you're actually either sending into Amazon's fulfillment centers or actually potentially selling to customers, you can sample the product. You can ask for the product first, look at it, feel it, make sure it's real, everything works, and then start drop shipping it or putting it into the fulfillment centers. That just takes more time. A lot of people don't want to wait. That's understandable. So you're kind of just natively trusting the supplier. You can ask your supplier to do spot checks on quality. We did that once in a while, once every a few months. It really depends on your relationship with your supplier and if they're willing to do that for you. And if you're putting a lot of business through them, they might. Ours did. But yeah, so how do you handle these? Again, let's just focus on private label drop shipping. FBA, again, with FBA, product goes out to customer returns product stays in fulfillment center or fulfillment centers, depending on what's getting returned and how often. But with private label drop shipping, it's 99% of the time getting sent back to your returns address. When it comes to US based returns, that's how you're going to handle it. The customer will reach out to Amazon. Amazon will ask you to create an RMA, or you ask the customer to create an RMA. They would be provided an RMA number. There's a list that really depends in our world when it comes to fulfillment by merchant. If the customer is expected to pay for the return or not. That's on Seller Central. We can provide the link to you. And it's a real simple Google search. Just look for the return codes, Amazon return codes, and it'll bring you right to it. But yeah, so if a customer initiates a return, they'll either pay for a label and send it back, or ask you to pay for it, even if you don't have to pay for it. We 99% of the time recommend that you do. You purchase it through USPS media mail. It's the cheapest. It usually costs like $1 or $2. We use a software called ShipStation. We recommend doing it. It gives you access to postage labels. It gives you a free stamps.com account as well, which right there and then saves you $15 a month. I think ShipStation's like $10-12 a month, and then you got to pay for the postage stamps on top of it, which are like a few dollars. They come in PDF format. You just send it to the customer, and you're well on your way. So how do you handle these returns once you get them? If you're sending them for US based sellers, we'll cover international returns here in a second, but how do you handle returns once you get them? So depending on what you have, let's say for instance it's clothing, electronics, whatever you're selling, you want to inspect the product to make sure it came back in the right condition. If it has to come back in the same condition you sent it to them in. If they've been wearing it, if it doesn't look right, if it's damaged beyond what they had recognized, you can ask for a restocking fee. You can open a case with Amazon to try to get some money back, or you can also open a case with your supplier. Most of the time, if something comes in with a defect and you can prove that defect, if you're dealing with AliExpress, DHgate, whoever, you can send pictures or videos of what the defect is, and 99% of the time the supplier is going to refund you at least some of the money, if not all of it. And we've had to deal with this a lot. And then you can either resell the product or throw it away. or donate it. That's what we did with a lot of our products. We'd end up asking for a refund if we got it or not. It was such a tiny percent of our business. We just, sometimes donated. We held a garage sale. We sold, some of the most common places to handle resells. Like you can open an eBay account to do it if it's small time. It's a little difficult to get set up. Because you're not really moving a massive amount of product through eBay, but it can absolutely be done, and we've seen success with that. Craigslist is another place if you're feeling funky. Facebook Marketplace is another excellent place. We've sold a lot of our products back on. But the biggest determinator is if the product was cheap or not. If the product's really cheap, you may just tell the customer to keep it, or to be like, look, I don't want to deal with it. You keep it. It only costs a few dollars. It's not my problem. Or you can ask for the product to come back and then deal with it that way. So you do have some options. International sellers, it's a little different. If you live in the UK, Canada, somewhere else, and you're selling in the US, Amazon US requires a US based returns address. You're going to have at least a PO box or somewhere to satisfy that requirement. Otherwise, you're just not going to be able to sell on Amazon US. Once you satisfy that requirement, you have a few options. You can either send all of the product, have the customer send all of the product to that US based returns address, and then you can do like a premium forwarding service with the postal service. And what they'll do is, every interval they'll take your product, package it, and send it back to you. It's like $20 a week. It's not cheap. The PO box is actually really cheap. So I mean, if you guys are already doing it, it's really, really inexpensive to have a PO box. But a lot of different things come into effect. Not everything fits into a PO box. If you're selling large items or bulky items, the postal service may refuse it. So there's things to keep in mind. But we normally recommend this, and this is what we do. Excuse me. We've done this a couple times as well when we needed to change our shipping address, our returns address. What you'll do is you'll print out, the customer will initiate an RMA. They'll be like, look, I need to send it back somewhere. You reach out to the customer and be like, look, here's a shipping label, send it back to me. You pay for the shipping label to get it back to your home. Still, again, not cheap because you're taking the product back. It could be a total loss on the product, and then you're also paying a shipping to get back. You can also ask the customer to send pictures of validity if the product's damaged or defected in any way, and that way you can initiate a refund or a claim with the supplier to get a refund, and that way the customer can keep it. There's a bunch of different ways that you can handle these. It's in no way, shape, or form is this a roadblock to you succeeding by selling in the United States. But you need to handle it correctly, and that's the biggest key. There's ways to handle it correctly, and they're all completely legitimate, completely legal. It's how most people do this in Amazon in the United States. So if you're an international seller, don't let that be a roadblock. I know we've had a lot of questions about this in the student group, had a lot of questions in the non-student group, and there's plenty of ways to deal with these returns if you're based outside of the United States and selling within it. Otherwise, most people would not be able to sell on Amazon US from outside, and that can be a hurdle. You don't have to worry about you don't have to set up a place to send it to and let it just sit there. You don't have to have a warehouse. I mean, there's companies out there that will facilitate this for you. That's, again, very common. There's tons and tons and tons of US based sellers, international sellers, selling on Amazon in the United States that have, that they facilitate these returns as well, but that can also be costly. So depending on the amount of what you're selling, how often you're selling it, and if you're selling a ton of that different type of item and what your return rate is, that should hopefully clear things up for you guys. But again, as always, we're here to help you out. If you have any questions, just let us know. We've been doing this for a long time. We almost always have the answer to these things. There's sometimes we don't have the answer right away, but we can find that answer for you. But we've been doing this a long time. We've dealt with returns for a very long time. So if you guys have any questions on that, again, always hit us up. We're here for you. Shout out to the students in the group. Hope you're enjoying the course. Again, any questions, come to us. That's what we're here for. We're here to help you guys out. We want to make sure you succeed. So till then, like I said, always follow us on Instagram, subscribe to us on YouTube, invite people to the group, people that want to be a part of e-commerce, people that really want to sell on Amazon. It's the most critical piece. Inviting random people to the group isn't going to help anybody out. So make sure that these people are, interested in a second life with e-commerce, maybe even as a primary source of income. But that's pretty much it. That's what we're here for, you guys. We're always here to help you out. So until then, we will chat later.